Thank you, honorable members. We resume. I trust you all had a delicious lunch. Unfortunately, I did not. Notwithstanding that, our next agency is the Guyana Police Force. But before we entertain the Guyana Police Force, allow me to notify you members that in keeping with the practice of the Public Accounts Committee, two of the agencies that were written to requesting that they hold discussions with the Auditor General and to make their submissions on or before March 2nd, 2022, have requested for a month extension. And that is the Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development and the Ministry of Public Health. So in keeping with their requests, I will have to suggest that when we fix the schedule, these requests be considered so they do not fall on the schedule to appear before us within this period, but rather after this extension that they are requesting. So that is just for information purpose. Well, the usual excuse of COVID is provided. I see Honorable Teixeira has her hands up. Ms. Teixeira, do you wish to make a contribution? I'm not getting a response from Honorable Teixeira, but I guess when she comes on. But we have before us the Guyana Police Force, and there are 3 officers. All are currently serving officers of the Guyana Police Force. Mr. Bharat Prasad is the Police Finance Officer. Mr. Calvin Brutus, Guyana Police Force. I think, would you be kind enough, sir, to introduce your team? I think I should go down that road because all I'm seeing here is Calvin Brutus, Guyana Police Force. And I know that you have one of those ranks, but I'm not sure which one.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Chair. Other members of the Public Accounts Committee, those present in this room and on the call virtually. I'm Calvin Brutus, Senior Superintendent of Police and performing the function of Deputy Commissioner Administration. To my right is...
I think Deputy Commissioner Administration.
Yes. Okay. To my right is Deputy Commissioner of Police, Sir Paul Williams, DSM, who held the position prior to me. And to my left is Assistant Superintendent Bharat Prasad. He's the current Finance Officer for the Guyana Police Force.
Okay, thank you very much, and forgive me for not addressing you as Senior Superintendent Calvin Brutus, right? And Assistant Superintendent Prasad and Deputy Commissioner Williams. Am I correct there?
Good afternoon, Chair. All other members of the PFC. Yes, sir. Deputy Commissioner Paul.
Thank you. So we have the Guyana Police Force before us, and they have 3 paragraphs from 2017 and 6 paragraphs from 2018. I put all the paragraphs before you for your questions, members. I think we all can agree and recognize that the paragraphs are not paragraphs that are worrying, and it's just some administrative issues as it relates to overpayment. And I believe we do understand that these overpayments are primarily because pay sheets are prepared, submitted for payments, and officers just resign or remove themselves after that pay change is made. That's primarily the issue here. But the floor is still open because I don't want to deprive any member who may want to put a question or two. Honorable Member Siraj, you have the floor.
Thank you, Comrade Chairman. Comrade Chairman, I 701, that's for 2017, and correspondingly, 2018, it's 816, that has to do with overpayments. And once we know this happened and we have an appreciation of some of the circumstances, I think we're moving backward if we're not reducing the instances of these things happening. And in this case, we have really moved from a position of seven officers being overpaid in 2017 to 88 officers in 2018. So can the team give some comfort to the PAC that steps are being taken to address this matter, and we'll see a reduction of the instances of these things happening?
Thank you for your question.
Senior Superintendent Gutas, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you for your questions. Indeed, these overpayments occurred because of the pace at which the information was received at head office to effect those adjustments to the salary sheet. What we've done so far, some members have rejoined the force. They have given consent to have monies deducted from their current salary on a monthly basis, 10 of them, 2 of which are relating to this particular paragraph. We've written letters and sent out to other members, former members who were overpaid, informing them of the situation, the amount that they were overpaid in the period, and requesting that they make good on repaying those monies within a specified time. Some letters were served, some we did not locate them. These letters are being sent to the Permanent Secretary for further action. We have also reiterated to the commanders and heads of department that they enforce the policy of having those reports coming within the 72-hour period after the rank go and out, and also informing us in an informal way by way of a telephone call that we are informed well in advance, even before the report comes, so that preliminary action can be taken to safeguard against overpayment of salary. We will continue, however, to recover those monies or make effort to recover those monies that were overpaid and to ensure that going forward, we don't see this on such a scale.
Thank you very much, Senior Superintendent.
Comrade Chairman, if I may.
Honorable Siraj, you have the floor.
Right, 2018. Just a comment here, stock ledgers. I know the response from the accounting officer and his team that in relation to 817 and 818 for 2018, those 2 paragraphs, that the Guyana Police Force has taken some amount of action to bring this up to date, and they should be commended for that. But also PAC would like to caution that they ensure there is not a reoccurrence of this undesirable situation. But Mr. Chairman, substantially 819, the Auditor General is saying that we have 34 vehicles at workshop throughout the countries, and some of them are there for long periods of time. So I note in the response, the accounting officer is saying that there are 24 vehicles that are below 14 months. They have disposed of 8, and there are 2 vehicles that are at these workshops over 18 months. Boarded, I don't understand what is meant by boarding. That's one. Secondly, Comrade Chairman, when these vehicles are left for protracted amount of time at workshops throughout the country. And even if for a week you find a situation where you might go back and find a tape deck missing or a tail light gone, a trafficator gone, and all these sort of things. And I doubt this is the same for the vehicles of the Guyana Police Force. And
And vehicles still got tape deck.
and it might be, well, these have been there 18 months and all that. Some of them were probably bought 8-10 years ago. I have one with a tape deck. So my question to the accountant, first of all, what is meant by boarded? And then secondly, is it does the accounting officer and team found cases where the vehicles left are vandalized? And what steps are being taken to ensure that when a vehicle goes to a workshop, they'll get it repaired in a timely manner and put back into service?
You have the floor, Senior Superintendent Brutus.
Thank you once again. The information that we received, the vehicles were there for several reasons. One, lack of space within our own compounds because there were other broken down vehicles that occupy the spaces. Older vehicles than these that have not been sold off by auction sale, and that is why they were there. Another reason that was given was that the ability of those mechanics, because when the vehicles go, the mechanics are required to source the parts, repair the vehicle, and they're paid for it. Once they return the old parts that was on those vehicles. There was some challenge with them accessing some of these parts. We know for sure that some of the Chinese model vehicles, we had some challenges in securing those parts because some vehicles are manufactured and sold. And when you look back for parts, sometimes the companies is no longer in existence. We had those challenges for a number of years until recently. The vehicles have since been removed, and they're now at the public works compound on the highway. The direction by the Accountant General report to have the 8 vehicles boarded, and that means that they will no longer be used by the police force to perform any road function because of either the expense to maintain them or that they just cannot be back in serviceable condition. That process already was done. We have engaged the field auditor from the Ministry of Home Affairs to initiate the process of auctioning off those old vehicles. Some were sold already. There are still 2 other batches to go because it is in lots. So soon this will be fully addressed. And we no longer have vehicles spending so much time because those old vehicles are now phasing out and we have newer models in use.
Thank you.
Honorable Member Juretta Finance.
Yeah, yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. Just looking at the paragraphs in 2017, 702, and 2018, the 816 paragraphs, basic overpayments again, but these specifically were for the years 2010, 2011, 2012. I think another for 2017 was actually in the 2018. I see. Could the accounting officers actually just give an indication as to whether or not they have engaged EFS when it comes to basically writing off, I would assume, some of these payments, 2010, 2011, 2012. This is between a period of 10 to 12 years. You have these payments outstanding. So I don't know if the methods of recovery has been exhausted at the level of the force and whether or not you guys see it fitting to engage GFS on the way forward with these.
Senior Superintendent Brutus.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for your question, Ms. Finance. We have done our preliminary steps by trying to inform them in the way of a written letter of the situation for those that we can locate. And we've compiled the letters that return, some served, some not served. And that has gone to the permanent secretary of the Ministry of Affairs, which is our accounting officer, for onward transmission and discussion to initiate the process that you mentioned. At this moment, I can't say exactly if that was done.
Okay. So could we just ask for a follow-up to be done? At least we see it repeating itself, because I am only to assume that when we see 2010, 2011, 2012, you still have overpayments being outstanding that you have exhausted, like you're rightly saying, that you have done everything at your level to try to recover, that we actually look to the FS for that to be rectified. So most definitely what I'll ask is for you to just follow up with the FS for this process to go forward. At least we come back and it keep repeating itself, unnecessarily.
He's doing his part,
Yeah.
which is to follow up with his PS.
Yes, that's correct.
PS May Thomas will have to deal with the FS.
That is correct. But I'm saying that just to make sure that he follow up with his PS in the matter, so that it wouldn't be repeated in reports moving forward.
Yes, thank you. I take your advice, and indeed we are endeavoring to ensure that the audit queries are resolved and that we maintain this kind of system of any overpayment, we try to recover it. And we're working from 2010, 2012 onwards, and even on to 2020. We've had more success in the more recent period, which is not before us here today, but the system is working. I will follow up with PS on this matter.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. I see Honorable Gail Teixeira, your hands are up. We may have to make a phone call to Honorable Gail because our hands have been up a long while. Dr. Mahadio.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I'd like to refer the team to 8/17/2018 report and ask what systems are in place, because it says of the 26 items that are selected from the various sections of the forces stores, in all cases, differences are observed in count, and the police response was the forced regress elapse, and bin cards and stock ledgers are currently being updated. But what systems are in place to ensure that this has to be a continuous process? So if the team could advise us as to what systems are in place to ensure that this is not just a year-end event and that we are not going to have these lapses again. Thank you.
Senior Superintendent Brutus.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Dr. Mahadio.
But I must say, Dr. Mahadio, perhaps you were having some technical difficulties, but that question was asked by Honorable Siraj and answered. But just for your clarity, I am going to allow Senior Superintendent Brutus to reiterate his answer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Dr. Mahadio. This matter was corrected. All the records were brought up to date. And what we have now going forward, the finance officer checks monthly, and our internal audit and inspection department, they do checks quarterly at random. This is quite a simple record to maintain.
Thank you, Senior Superintendent Brutus.
Thank you, sir.
Honorable members, if there is no other question, let me thank the accounting officer at the Guyana Police Force and his team for affording us the opportunity to clarify these paragraphs, reference the Auditor General's report of 2017 and 2018. Deputy Commissioner Williams Senior Superintendent Brutus and Assistant Superintendent Passad, thank you very much for your time and do continue to serve our country with distinction. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and everyone else present.
Delmaned, Accounting Officer and Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Agriculture. And as I would have indicated earlier, we are considering and examining the Auditor General's report for the years 2017 and 2018 together. And your ministry has a total of 22 paragraphs in 2017 and 29 paragraphs in 2018. Before we commence, may I invite you to introduce your team to us? And I see it as a big team, so I will appreciate if, or when you're calling the person's name, or if you will afford them the opportunity to put on their mics and do it, that will be better, so that we will know who's speaking to us.
Thank you very much, Chair. I would want to start from my extreme left.
Dacia Ferguson, Deputy Permanent Secretary, Finance, Ministry of Agriculture.
Bibi Nazima Hakim, Principal Personal Officer.
Yonette Farrington, Assistant Secretary, Finance.
George Jarvis, Chief Technical Officer.
And you are also the former Permanent Secretary?
Yes, for 2 months in 2017.
Okay.
Ricky Rupchan, General Manager, Hope Coconut Industries Limited. Sundar Prasad, Finance Manager, Actin MMA ADA.
I'm not hearing the person who's speaking here.
Mahendranath Ramjit, General Manager, MMA.
Fazal Bakas, Head of Finance, Gaisuku.
Dr. Mahendra, Chief Scientist, Guyana Rice Development Board.
Kamala Alvin, Project Coordinator, Agriculture Sector Development Unit.
Raymond Lachman, Project Coordinator, ASDU.
Dave Hicks, Acting CEO of NDIA.
Danishwar James, Project Manager, ASDU. Denzel Roberts, Chief Fisheries Officer, Fisheries Department.
Thank you very much, Ms. Dalmaned. And let me extend a welcome to your entire team as I put the paragraphs before the Public Accounts Committee. And because I have noticed that these paragraphs are basically, if I may put it in a nutshell, they are related specifically to agencies within the Ministry of Agriculture. So in view of that, I would like to put all the paragraphs before the Public Accounts Committee and request that questions flow. The floor is open. Honorable Siraj, you have the floor.
Thank you, Comrade Chairman. 310, this will be 2017. A shortfall here in capital expenditure is noted at $593.9 million. I'm particularly interested, Mr. Chairman, in this subhead, Crops and Livestock Support Services, where there's been a shortfall of $432 million, $432,097,000. And I also know, Mr. Chairman, that in this area, there is need for a lot of support in the crops and livestock area. So my question to the accounting officer is why money is allocated for the development of this sector at the end of the budgeted period. You have such a huge amount left on spending.
Yes, Ms. Ned.
Chair, this has to be subvention agencies, and I wanted a breakout of the 432,097. I'm not too sure because these are monies overall.
So the 432,097 could basically be an accumulation
Yes.
from various line items
Yes.
from the agencies.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let me understand something. The ministry on its capital program has 4 sub-programs, if I may put it that way.
Yes.
Ministries, administration, crops and livestock support services, fisheries, hydrometeorological services.
Right.
And under crops and livestock support services, you have a breakdown as per line item for spending.
Well, actually, we have 14 subvention agencies on the program too.
Okay. Okay, so crops and livestock support services, you have 14 subvention agencies. And the total funds, the 1,734,190,000 is what really went to across the board or spread across the 14 subvention agencies.
Yes.
And from that, a total of 1,302,093,000 were spent.
Yes.
And a shortfall of 432,097,000 were not spent. So Comrade Siraj, we will give the Permanent Secretary some time to provide us with the breakdown of this sum for the respective subvention agencies that are under her watch.
Yes.
Right?
But can I ask then, Mr. Chairman, in 2018, paragraph 377 also points out that the issue of a shortfall of 1.2 billion. I mean, outside of the actual breakdown, can the PS advise us? Did something happen that made agencies not spend their, because these were appropriations from the Parliament for programs. So as a result of this 1.252 billion shortfall for projects planned in 2018, which projects were not completed as a result of this shortfall? I'm less interested. I know we have to get the breakdown of the where the money is in a shortfall, whether it's subvention agencies or ministry programs. But this is a huge amount of money, which meant a number of important agricultural programs were not implemented or not complete. Which ones were not complete, and were there any reasons for that? There must be reasons. Was it weather? Was it strikes? Was it fish weren't running? What was it?
To have this information provided as well, because it's a similar response. If member is referring to program 2, it will be the similar thing of 673.162. Yes.
But isn't the former PS there, Mr. Jarvis? He can't help with the question both Mr. Siraj and I are asking?
No, not at this time. Not at this time.
Comrade Jarvis indicated that he served as PS for 2 months, right? 2 months.
2 months in 2017.
2 months in 2017. And did you serve in 2018, sir?
No, sir.
And did not serve in 2018. And I think I understand that because the sum that is reflected here is an accumulation of sums from the 14 subvention agencies, the PS is requesting that she at least be able to see each agency with their projects so that a better answer, I guess, can be tendered to us.
Yeah, well, I'm asking that additional to that is what projects were not, or what programs, because I don't know if it's only, the Ministry of Agriculture is very dependent on agencies to carry out many of its programs. So I'm not interested just in the financial numbers. I'm interested in what programs suffered as a result of the non-usage of 1.2 billion appropriated from Parliament. Can I go on to the next question?
Yeah, before you go, Honorable Teixeira, PS, please take note that that is an information that you will have to, if you don't have the answer now, you will have to provide it to us. We are interested in seeing the breakdown as for the agencies and the sum that they did not utilize that gave us that total of 1.252 billion, and also in the 2017 that gave us the amount 509 93,973,000. And when you provide the breakdown, you are to also specify what are the programs or what are the projects that actually suffered due to the unspent sum, and kindly also provide reasons as to why the monies were not spent. I trust I captured your question accurately there, Comrade Teixeira.
Yes, you did, sir.
Kindly proceed with the next question.
Me or is someone? I had my hand up. I think I don't.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. 376 on 2018. 168 checks were on hand. Totaling 205,948,000. Can the Honorable Minister, Minister P.S., although the briefing notes from the Auditor General say that subsequently all the checks were disbursed, could we have an idea of what timeline when it was disbursed? Because these were found on January the 2nd. When were the checks disbursed? Were some immediately in January, or did some of them extend into latter part of the year?
What I know, usually it's just within a week and 2 weeks, checks are usually disbursed. But in this particular instance, I don't want to say the duration in this particular 164. I don't know if audit office has it, but they say at the time of reporting, all the checks were issued.
Yeah, well, that would be then approximately September 2018 when it would be submitted to the Parliament. But this is a 2018 report we're doing. So this would be, submitted in September 2019. But I mean, $205 million, just because it says it was dispersed, the PAC is going to ask questions of when were these checks dispersed? In 2019 or in 2020? When were they dispersed? I mean, we just had a big altercation, PS, before you came in regards to Ministry of Public Security examination, where it appears as if agencies haven't come prepared to answer questions. So that when we don't have information, we can't do follow-up questions. All you do afterwards, not you personally, of course, but accounting officers, when they send the information afterwards, we don't have the opportunity to question. We just get a statement, which many times when we do have the opportunity, do not answer the question. So the 376, this is a lot of money. You have no information to share with us? This is
Usually the maximum, I'd say 3 weeks. That's the maximum. We don't go throughout the year and go to the other year. That hasn't happened in my time.
No, but we're asking about 2018. You weren't there. What happened with 168 checks totaling over $200 million? When were they dispersed? Is anyone in that team able to answer? I mean, remember, this is a 2018 report tabled in 2019 September, where the Auditor General's office is saying that that the checks were still outstanding.
Honorable member, the checks would have been dispersed.
For the benefit of Mr. Shearer, can you please let her know your designation so she will know who's answering?
I'm seeing the backs of people. I'm not seeing their nice faces, so that's the problem. It's okay. Thank you.
Okay, Assistant Secretary Finance, Unit Thornton. The checks would all the checks would have been dispersed up to May. I would say by April, May, the checks would have been dispersed. But what we would like to note is most of the checks would have been received early in January, because when the Ministry of Finance closed off on the last day, the 31st, we do not get those within a day or two. Sometimes it takes a week to get those checks. So it's obvious that the checks would be on hand when the auditors come. But we make every effort within a month to, the max would be 3 to disperse of those checks.
Could you say what would be the circumstances that would have a check sitting there issued in January and not distributed or handed over until April, May? What would maybe some of the circumstances that would lead to that generally?
We have cases where suppliers, a lot of the payees, not suppliers, but contractors, service providers may be out of town. I remember clearly we had one case with a gentleman from Letem, and we made several attempts to get him to come, and it took a while. So we have cases where a person would be out of town for some reasons, they will not come in a timely manner to uplift the check. So that's one of the main reasons for the person uplifting the check late. But we can double check to get a precise timeline as to when the checks were completely dispersed.
And I would like to know, sorry, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to know what kind of things were part of the purchases. Were these perishables? Were these equipment, supply, material, stationery, and were these things for the ministry directly or for statutory bodies?
There would be payments on behalf of the ministry, not necessarily statutory bodies, because statutory bodies does their own payments and processes.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Mr. Chair, could I ask a follow-up?
Go right ahead. Once Honorable Teixeira is finished, you can go right ahead,
Yes.
Dr.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Thank you, Camille. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to follow up, so we have the checks that are cut before the end of the year, or you received it in January. But were all the items that the checks were cut for, were they all delivered by the 31st of December? Or was it just a case of making contact with the supplier to come and uplift the check?
Some would be, most would be that we're waiting on the supplier to provide the item. In terms of purchase of stationery, we'd be awaiting the supplier to uplift the check.
Could I assume then that it means that some items that you would have bought in the previous year were then delivered in the following year? And up to what time in the year? Is it by the end of January? What is your timeline for them to do the deliveries for monies that were expended basically the year before?
Well, in terms of purchases, the timeline would be immediate. Once we're procuring an item, we have the check. The supplier supply the item, we make that payment immediately.
But then if I may, you're saying that some of these suppliers would collect the check till in May. So in 2018 May, they collect the check.
No.
It was basically paid for in the 2017 budget.
No, not suppliers. That would be like contractors or some other service providers, mainly contractors. Because remember, supplier is a direct, you deliver, you get paid. So that's immediate.
So all your suppliers would have supplied by the end of December?
They would not supply unless they receive a payment.
So just to again ask the question. So your suppliers for items that are being supplied, not your contractors, up to what time in 2018 did they supply for monies that were expended basically, or the checks that are cut in 2017? Do we have a timeline up to what time or the check should be returned to the console fund?
No, the checks for supplies, we do not, we can only issue those checks to the supplier when the supplier provide the goods. So if on December 31st, we put through a check for a supplier, when we collect that check from Ministry of Finance, if it's 6 days into January, 8 days into January, then that supplier will supply the item, and then we will issue the check to the supplier. So that's why I said, with supplier, the payment is immediate upon delivery of the goods.
Well, what timeline do we have for the delivery of goods after the 31st of December?
January.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can I return to paragraph 310 and 311, please?
Go right ahead, Honorable Member.
That's page 2017, the report of 2017. P.S. When I asked about the Mr. Siraj asked about the shortfall in 2017, you said this was mainly the statutory bodies, and you gave me a similar answer as well. However, when you look at 2017, there's some important issues we need to have clarity on. 310 says that the shortage of 593,973 came from Ministry Administration, which was the largest, 160 million that was shortfall. Crops and livestock, 432 million. Fisheries, 129,000, it looks like. Hydromet services, 1.4. So that the greatest delinquents was the Ministry Administration and Program 2, Crops and Livestock, which was approximately 90% of that 593. Then when you go to 311, the sum of 160.38 million shown as a shortfall under Program 1, that is Ministry Administration, was in respect of one IDA credit, one India loan, one Japan grant, and drainage and irrigation works. So what happened? Could you, I have in front of me the description of the IDA credit. Why were we in shortfall of all these programs under the Ministry Administration, not the statutory bodies? I have follow-up to do with 2018, but I would like now to have better answers than being told that this shortfall was due to statutory bodies. It wasn't.
Chair, member, let's look at the highest amount is Program 2, which is 4.2. Yes. And that's what I refer to, the highest amount, Program 2. However, a breakdown of Program 1 administration would be flood risk, India loan and grant, Japan, and DNI goes to Program 2. So it's a mixture between 1 and 2. I was looking at 432, which is Program 2.
No, PS, hold on. I think you are mixing up what
2017 and 2018.
Yes, because if you focus on 2017,
yes,
Honorable Teixeira's question is with reference to 2017, the 160,338,000. And the Auditor General is saying to us that the shortfall for this program is in respect of one IDA credit, one India loan, one Japan grant, and drainage and irrigation works. So that is specific to the 160,330,000. So Mr. Teixeira's question is really with reference to that amount.
Mr. Chair, just a point that Mr. Chair, Comrade Siraj asked on Program 2. I think that's why the response was a mixture.
Yes, that's the clarity.
Yeah, Madam Teixeira is now asking on the entire line head. So
yes.
I think don't let us
yes, you are correct.
The two questions.
Just for clarity, when Comrade Siraj posed his question, it was on specifically the 432,097,000, which is the crops and livestock support services, to which the PS indicated that the 14 subvention agencies, that's an accumulation of their amount. Now the question to you UPS has to do with the ministry administration, which is directly related to you. So, Mr. Chair, I don't know if you want to re-ask the question just for greater clarity, but I think PS now gets a clear understanding of the difference.
Yes, I think so, yeah. I will
Okay.
come back if it's not clear.
Okay, so that's good for you, Mr. Shearer?
Yes, let's go ahead. I would like to hear an answer.
Good, go right
Why?
ahead.
Because in reading the Auditor General's report, paragraphs 310 all the way to, let me see, just a second, give me 1 second, to 320, with all these loans, one may have a valid reason, the others are not clear. Why were these shortfalls? I mean, one gives a reason at paragraph 314 that it was hurricane season. Well, hurricane season happens every year. So I don't know whether this hurricane season was different from any other. But in one, the reason given for shortfall was the fact that it was, there was a delay in bringing some, a pump in because of hurricane season. I don't, as I said, hurricane season is an annual feature for this part of the region. So I'm trying to get at less on the amount of money and why, and focus on what were the reasons. Were technical competency, shortage of staff, poor management of the project? What were the reasons that would lead to a large shortfall, particularly with foreign funded?
Okay, regarding flood risk, the hurricane season was in Florida. And that was the reason then, but however, that has been resolved. That's regarding the flood risk management project. India loan, that shortfall was due to retendering, which was done, awarded in the following year.
Were the monies kept back in for the next year?
Usually on foreign funded, it's revolved, it's multi-year, so it wouldn't be, it goes to the next year. So within the project duration, that money is available.
Right.
As it relates to the Japan grant, savings on civil works contract, which was committed to the procurement of equipment. That procurement process had to be done overseas and was completed in 2017. That's the procurement process. Again, those items were received subsequently.
I see in one case on 316 that the under drainage and irrigation, that variation of a project was not approved. Do you know what was at the root of this? What was the issue? Is a variation in the project.
Go ahead, yes. I was told the supervision, no approval was given for that, and that wasn't paid.
Mr. Chair, follow up.
Go ahead, Mr. Patterson.
Madam Chair, my apologies. Poor eyesight. PS, is this the supervision for the Hope Bridge, which at the time there was queries on the designer supervision, and and of course and that was why it was disapproved, the Hope Canal Bridge.
Yes, member.
Can you, can you provide some further clarity why it wasn't approved since it's here? And did you not communicate this to the Auditor General? Because I think it is was a query in years before on the bridge, the design, and so why wasn't this communicated, and it still is a query here?
Dave Hicks, Acting CEO of NDIA. The issue encountered with the whole bridge was more so the approach slab. The bridge itself was structurally sound and is being used every day since commissioning. Throughout the supervision aspect of the work, some variations, supervision works were requested to the National Board, and to date it has not been approved. As such, the expenditure could not be made. Thank you.
Is that response sufficient for you, Mr. Patterson?
The response is sufficient, but what I'm wondering is why wasn't this communicated to the Auditor General so that it can be included in his report? I mean, I think the country knows about the issue on the report, which I think it still sinking. Last time, and remedial works are required every year. What I'm trying to find out is it's such an obvious and glaring issue. Why couldn't this be communicated to the Auditor General, and the Auditor General make a note saying, listen, the supervision and the query from the ministry was on the design or the construction or whatever part of the approach, so that it's not left so open by saying a variation not being approved. I think the National Tender Board declined approving of the variation. And so, I think that in fullness, the Auditor General should make a comment rather than it's years from now, people will still be looking and saying, what was the variation that was not approved? The Audit Office.
I note your point, Mr. Patterson. I tend to have to agree with your comments also. Is the Auditor General online right now? Okay, so
Miss Finance, is someone from Auditor General here?
Yeah, I'm being told that Miss Badley could clarity. Ms. Badley, could you lend some clarity, please?
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, but Mr. Victor Lal, Director Works and Structure, he's there to provide clarity on the issue.
Mr. Chair, sorry, my apologies. I'm following with the honorable member, and from what I'm seeing, we would have stated that in the 2017 report, we would have noted that there was a variation that wasn't approved. And I think this came out when we moved to 2018.
2018, which paragraph in 2018 are you referring to?
We stated in the 2017 at paragraph 316 that there was a variation that was not approved for the supervision services. So with the explanation provided by the ministry, I think this would have been struck out when we got into 2018. So it didn't repeat itself. So,
Madam Chair, can I follow up?
Go ahead, Mr. Patterson.
I heard the explanation by the engineer, but I would have thought or would have hoped that some sort of level of clarity, because when you just strike it out like that, it leaves the question and it just came off magically. You know what I mean? And I thought that some level of explanation, as has been made here by the PS, could be done in the sense that, it was MPTAB that did not approve the the report, the variation, because they weren't satisfied that the quality of supervision or construction or whatever it is by the consultancy and design was adequate enough for them to pay them more money. And I think the consultancy agreed with MPTABs, because I can't recall seeing any what should I say, protests on that. I mean, and I would have thought that that this would have been recorded somewhere, even in the briefing notes that we would have received.
That is correct, Mr. Patterson, because based on the explanation given by the accounting officer, the PS, I'm referring to the briefing notes before me, and I see absolutely no mention of it whatsoever, which that is the least we should have been receiving from the audit office at the level of the PAC.
Can I
go ahead, Mr. Shearer?
Yeah, I'm still on 316, drainage and irrigation. The first sentence in 316 says that, second sentence, an amount of 7 million was transferred to hinterland environmentally sustainable agricultural development project by way of environment, bringing the total funds available to 41 million. Could the PS say, how was this decision made to move money out of projects identified for NDIA, especially East Demerara, Water Conservancy, etc., and move it to Hinterland Environmentally Sustainable Agricultural Development Project? Where did that decision come from? Was it with a donor agency or cabinet or program heads?
Go ahead.
Yes, Wazi.
Could you speak up a little bit, sir? Thank you.
Sorry, I can't hear.
Is the mic on? It's probably a little closer.
Wazir Mohammed, Finance Manager, NDIA. For the year 2017, we received $26,100,000 from Ministry of Finance, of which we would have spent $19,251,241, and we would have returned $6,848,759 to the consult fund. As for the $7 million being transferred to the Hinterland Environmentally Sustainable Agriculture Development Project, we did not effect this transfer at the Ministry of Agriculture.
Say that again, you did not?
We did not effect this transfer.
Then I need further clarification, Madam Chair, because yes. I'm reading from paragraph 316 in the Audit General Report of 2017, which says $48 million was allocated for DNI, and of this amount, $7 million was transferred, bringing the total available funds to $41 million. According to appropriation accounts, amounts totaling $26 million were paid to NDI as capital subvention, and the purpose of fund was to make provisions for It gives explanation. The unexpended sum of $14 million was as a result of a variation that was not approved for the management for the construction of the East Demerara Water Conservancy. So what the person who just spoke says it was a $26 million from Ministry of Finance allocation, but it says here in the Auditor General that it's $48 million, of which $26 million was used and $14 million unspent and $7 million for Ministry of Hinterland Sustainable Agricultural Development. So I'm just concerned that we're getting a different response than what the Auditor General has written here.
Could we get some clarity from the accounting officer and team? One moment, Mr. Shearer, as the accounting officer, just...
Sure, no problem. Take their time.
Hi, Wazir Mohammed here again, NDIA Finance Manager. The total amount released to us via the IF mass back then was 26.1 million. We have not received any more than this from Ministry of Finance. The difference, the unspent money, was paid back to the consult fund. As it relates to the 7 million, we need to clarify this with the auditor office as to the source of this, of the accuracy of this statement here. I'm not saying it's inaccurate, but we need to clarify it.
Could I ask the the audit office rather to lend some clarity to this paragraph? Because we're having some very different statements coming out.
Madam Chair, I humbly request that we run this by the Auditor General himself so we can get a final answer on it.
Madam Teixeira, the audit office is requesting that they actually check with the Auditor General himself on this particular matter. So I don't think more clarity can be given to this particular paragraph at the moment.
I'm afraid I'm joining you, Madam Chair, in your frustration that you expressed early this morning.
Yes.
Madam Chair, before you go on.
We have no choice but to await. That's on 316. I haven't.
Yes, before Madam Chair, before you go on.
Ms. Patterson, 316, right?
Yes, no, right, exactly. Before Madam Chair go on, I've heard the Auditor General, the Auditor asking for the Auditor General presence to respond. So I'm just hoping that he would also make a pronunciation on the part with the $14 million as well, to say that the audit query is not audit query, the audit response is acceptable to him as the audit office as well. In other words, we've heard the response from the PS, but we saw no other comment from the audit office. So if we're gonna wait on the audit office to speak on whole 317, he should speak on everything, all three or all four items covered there.
I agree totally. So the response that we're expecting from the audit office should cover all of those. Noted?
Yeah. Thank you, Gail.
16 and the other paragraphs following it of the foreign loans.
Could you repeat the beginning of that, Mr. Shearer?
Yeah, sorry. In other words, are you taking 316, 17, 18, 19, 20 as they all relate to foreign funds?
That is correct.
Okay. Can I then go to, where am I? I've got lost a minute, sorry. When we go back, yes, the 377 with the 1.252 billion that was unspent. And within it, there's they break down at 377, 378. Again, questions to do with the lack of ministry spending under Ministry of Administration, Agriculture Development and Support Services, Agriculture, Aquaculture, and Hydrometeorology. Again, this shortfall, from what I'm reading, had a major impact on some critical areas of flood risk and agricultural rights development. What, in the case of the capital expenditure, how much of it was foreign funded and how much of it was from local funds? The total capital budget for 2018.
Go ahead, PS.
Well, looking on page 163, Program 1, Ministry Admin, the 1, 2, 3, 4 projects were all foreign funded. So I'm looking at the tables. They were all foreign funded, Ministry Administration. While the table just above that, on the 377, would be a mix between foreign funding and locally funding, because these are all programs. But to say the difference, fisheries and hydromet, yes. Hydromet, program 3 and program 4, They're all local. So if
So
honorable
1 and
member
2
could say
foreign and 3 and 4 local, that's coming on to
It's a mix.
377.
377, yes. Ministry
Okay.
admin, we have a breakdown of that, which is below. So the table below, ministry admin is broken down further. So of the 2.751, the breakdown of that foreign funded projects would be the table under 378. So if honorable member could repeat our question, please.
Mr. Chair, is that
Yeah,
good
I'd
with?
ask one question about how many were foreign fund of this amount. How much of it was foreign funded? How much was local? I got the answer. Like in 2017, the shortfall appears to be mainly in the foreign funded projects. Would that be correct? Because when you go to paragraph 379, 380, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, these are all were foreign funded. Oh, it even goes on more. So what was the problem? Was it that the ministry had a problem with project execution units, the way in which the management of the projects went on? I know there's some details here that go on to explain advance payment from a local banker, for example, to do with DNI, one of the projects. But this is a major shortfall. For expedited, it seems to me when I read this that although there are reasons given, they're not. This is this whole thing is really an indication to me of very poor project management of the foreign funds, which were very critical when you read what they're for. Flood relief, agriculture, and all these areas. It's kind of scary to think that we had money that we couldn't, that wasn't used.
Honorable, if I may, I'm looking at the 100% on 378. Program 1, 378. So there are 2 projects, shortfall being 100%.
Yes, yes. Right.
So I'm advised that the DNI project was signed in 2018, but no expenditure due to they had to be re-advertised. That's in one instance.
It had to be re-advertised?
They says here, 2 setbacks. The project had to be re-advertised due to non-responsive bidder in the initial tendering process. That has to do with the India DNI pumps. The main reason for that. Yes.
Before
Madam Chair, can I?
Could I have the accounting officer just complete that statement before you go?
Yes. I'm sorry.
Yes, so I'm reading the ministry's response under paragraph 379. The project suffered 2 setbacks. 1 had to be re-advertised due to non-responsive bidder in the initial tendering process. And B, although the contract was awarded in June 2018, the contractor experienced difficulty in acquiring advance payment guarantee from a local bank. And subsequently, this was resolved in 2019, and hence payment could not have been made in 2018. So that's the explanation in 2018 for DNI pumps.
Okay.
I'm not this is foreign funded. And so even if you had no bidder in the initial tendering, the contract was awarded in June 2018.
Yes.
And the funny thing is, which puts off, question marks in my head, is the contractor was awarded in June 2018 had difficulty in acquiring advance payment guarantee from a local bank. Why was that? What was wrong with the company? that he couldn't get an advance payment guarantee from a local bank? This was done by public tendering, finally? Because you say the first time.
Now, I'm just trying to, your first question, Ms. Teixeira, I'm asking the PS if that's information that's available or not. Okay.
Dave Hicks here. As part of the conditions of contract, the supplier, being an Indian supplier, was required to supply a bank guarantee from a local institution. This process took about 3 to 4 months after the sign of the contract. They eventually got the bank guarantee from Scotiabank sometime in December 2018.
Thank you. Ms. Patton, your question is on the same paragraph?
Yes, Madam Chair. I'm just seeking some clarification from both NDIA and the ministry on this same paragraph. One, the Indian loan for drainage and irrigation. Is it not right as a conditional loan, the only firms out of India could have submitted bids? So therefore the tender process was done even though it was done through NDIA, it was done in India. Is that not the case? And then secondly, for a bank guarantee, the company or the bank, the company needs to have a corresponding bank in Guyana. And obviously, if their bankers or the company doesn't have a corresponding bank in Guyana, they would have to go maybe to the States and set up an account or somewhere else before they can get a corresponding bank in relation to Guyana. So it's not just simply their assets in India, but their corresponding banking arrangement. That was the delay. Can I have some clarification and expansion on that, please?
Definitely, Mr. Patterson, go ahead.
Yes, the project would have been advertised in India and only available for Indian contractors. And I'm not certain about the corresponding bank, but in our condition of the contract, the guarantee has to come from a local banking institution.
So when you say that, wouldn't the Bank of Baroda be the natural bank to guarantee an Indian company who's got a contract here? I'm trying to find out why was there difficulty, because the Auditor General report says this was resolved in April 2019. What was said earlier that this was resolved earlier than that, but according to the Auditor General, this was resolved in April 2019, hence payment could not have been effected in the fiscal year 2018. But why was the company having problem getting advance payment guarantee from a local bank? Do you know what the problem was? Because Bank of Baroda is here in Guyana.
Yes, we do not know what problem they encountered. We do not delve into their financial business in that regard, but we stick to the contract, and the contract required a local bank to provide the guarantee. At some point, they were suggesting from a foreign bank, but to safeguard our payment, we required from a local agency, a local financial institution.
Well, my question is not relating to getting into anybody's business, sir. This is a project which involved loan money, which Guyana would have to pay back for. This is a loan project. Therefore, the project execution unit, there should have been one, would have had to have known what were the reasons for the delay in the contractor getting a guarantee from a local bank. I'm not interested in the financial and business of the company. My question has nothing to do with that. Let me just ask, Madam Chair, sorry, let me cut you, if you don't mind. Can I ask if there was a project execution unit for this project?
That's a more specific question. Thank you, Mr. Shiro.
Was there a project execution unit for this project?
No, this project is handled directly by NDIA.
So who was in charge of monitoring the implementation of the project. It's a separate line item in the way in which you monitor and the project implementation. Even though it's done by NDIA, there must be a project line of some kind in your accounting system to monitor the disbursements and the implementation of the project. It can't be treated like any capital project. Capital money has to be treated slightly different, even if it's a double system. Because according to Auditor General, again, June 2018 was awarded the contract. This was resolved in April 2019, almost a year later. Certainly NDIA must know what were the reasons for the delay. Are you saying that between June and April, the company couldn't get an advance payment guarantee from a local bank and you were satisfied with that?
No, in December 2018, they got the advance bank guarantee. There's a delay between NDIA processing the payment through Ministry of Agriculture, then Ministry of Finance, and then the disbursement will be made through Exim Bank, direct to the contractor. So there's a period where it will be out of NDIA's control.
So all of that took 4 months, from December 2018 to April 2019. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, we will not, at NDIA, we will not be we will not have that time available to us. We will generally have to find that from the Ministry of Finance when that disbursement was made by Exim Bank. But during the period of December, we would have processed the advance.
Can I recommend, Madam Chair, that in future NDIA, when they get a loan, that it is treated like all ministries treat loans, where there's some form of project monitoring and implementation, so that monies that are meant for Guyana, which this is a loan, so how much did it cost us in terms of fees? Because when you're not using the money, there are usually penalties. What penalties were attached to this? Do you know?
Hi, Ms. Honorable Mr. Shiro. This is Wazir Mohammed, Finance Manager, NDIA. As for the angel line of agreement term is 0.05% is the commitment fees charged on the undisbursed amount at the end of the year. However, this charging becomes effective at the date of the first disbursement, meaning for 2017 and 2018, we haven't effected any disbursement, no commitment fees would be charged. However, in 2019, it will be charged on the undisbursed amount as of December 31st, 2019. As it relates to the issue of the bank, in 2017, 2018, it was difficult due to this adjustment in the AML legislation in Guyana. It was difficult for banks to do transactions with America. In most cases, in our USA, in most cases, these Indian banks, they have, like Bank of Baroda, ties to a branch in New York who does the, like a third party for the transaction. Bank of Baroda was winding down operation around the same time. Even we had difficulty in getting a letter of credit to effect the payment. We even draw to Republic Bank. However, due to some change or maybe some in the operation maybe of Bank of Baroda, they started back fully operational and they facilitate us with the letter of credit. However, in this, the Apollo was trying to circumvent the situation, and they would have, which is the contractor, the supplier for the pumps, they would have secure advance payment guarantee from Scotiabank. Also, when we got the award in June 7, 2018, we, through Ministry of Finance, still had to get the no objection from Exim Bank. This would have taken some time, which further delayed the signing of the contract. Exim Bank had to okay the terms and conditions of the contract, etc. So these, all these here would have led to some, we would have prolonged the actual signing of the contract. Upon signing of it, then we encountered this difficulty with the bond that further led to a delay in we being able to effect payments to the contractor, to the supplier.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I still reiterate my proposal that NDI should consider having some project execution subcommittee or committee that oversights, monitors, and ensures the execution of the projects are done in a timely manner for the future.
I support that recommendation coming from Mr. Shearer. Most definitely, we don't want to be moving forward in the manner in which it was being done here. And if that was a system, as you were explaining to us, rightly so, then maybe there is need indeed for us to have another body that looks into these projects.
Could I then go on to 380 in 2018?
Go ahead, Mr. Shearer.
This is a Japan grant, 170 million allocated for provision of equipment, supervision, management of East Demerara Water Conservancy, a shortfall of 107.6 million, 63% was noted. A significant shortfall of the year before was also noted, 71%. So the comment by the Auditor General is this could have improved drainage and irrigation systems and were therefore delayed. Did this come under NDIA as well? And could this could an explanation be given for why 2 years in a row there's shortfalls in this project?
Yes, Dave Hicks here, NDIA. The shortfall is a result of savings on the project. And during this period, we tried to get the savings from the project to purchase additional equipment. The process to get this done took some time. The Japanese grant appointed their own both reporters from agents who will administer the project, administer the funds, as well as conduct the procurement exercise. So the NDIA more or less had to wait on that process to be completed. We got the approval to use the savings, purchase the equipment, and eventually the Crown agent did the necessary procurement to facilitate the expenditure.
You're saying the shortfall is based on savings?
Yes.
So is that not something good? As in the savings, you saved on a project?
Mr. Chair, can I?
Go ahead, Honorable Patterson.
This is the same issue. I'm not with the agency, with the audit office and how they write these reports.
Coming to the audit office there now.
Yes, can I, Mr. Chair? Because in the one with the NDX, which is with the consultancy at the Hope Bridge, which was not approved, and as well as this here, they report these matters very literally, that you budget $10. When you finish the project, you only spend $8, so therefore there's a shortfall. But at the time of this report, they would have known that the project that it was budgeted for was completed. They can say so, and then say that whatever comments they want to make. But on the first glance, it looks as though it's a delinquency on the part of the agency, and from the explanation given by Mr. Hicks, it definitely is not. So maybe you can get some further clarity from the audit office on this particular matter. Are they just searching for things to say about these things, or are they being holistic? And did they not get the benefit of meeting with the agency before preparation of this report? So this here could have been worded better or omitted altogether.
Thank you, Honorable Patterson. I would ask Ms. Badley, and if Ms. Badley sees it fit to refer it to any other officer, then fine. But I think we need some clarification, because indeed when you are reading this report, one is of the opinion that something went wrong. That is why you're pointing it out as an error to make the claim that there has been a shortfall. as though the ministry did not spend for one reason or another, but not recognizing that it's a saving, and you can basically probably go into another project or request to use it for some other purpose. Can the audit office please provide some guidance, Ms. Badley? Ms. Badley, I'm not sure if you're speaking or your mic is mute. All right, I'm not sure if you're having difficulties getting Ms. Badley, but I will ask the next officer, and I believe it's the gentleman here.
Mr. Chair, with this paragraph, I think what's happening here, the savings that the officer from the ministry is referring to, if I'm reading the paragraph correctly here, it's because the supplier did not deliver what the machines that they were supposed to. So it was budgeted for, but because the supplier did not deliver the machines, that's why they ended up with a savings. And that's why shortfall.
So can the gentleman that spoke just now clarify, is it that the machines were not delivered? Because if they didn't deliver, it can be a saving.
No, that's not so. We're utilizing the savings to purchase the equipment.
Hold on. So the savings were utilized to purchase equipment. And
additional equipment.
And the equipment were not delivered.
No, the approval process to get the savings
to spend
what we call residual funds took a long time through the Japanese program and so on.
Okay. But the project, the original project for this sum, it was completed, right?
Yes.
And you had some savings from it.
Yes, that's it.
And the audit office is reflecting that that saving is a shortfall. Correct?
Mr. Chair, if I can.
Go ahead.
I am understanding it to mean, and I'm not going to use the exact figures just for simplicity, is that whatever was budgeted for under the grant was expended. Whatever, not budgeted for, whatever was programmed for it. I mean, I don't know exactly specifically what the work item was, but so if you had to buy widgets, they purchased the widgets. But at the end of the year or at a certain part, after purchasing, they have a huge surplus, and they apply to the Japanese government to use the surplus to buy additional equipment. The audit office is saying that the reason why they have it there is because the application, they did not spend all the money because they didn't finish the original work, plus spend the new additional sums, right? And then that's why they have it, because the audit office, how they see it is that you have to spend every single cent. However, how it's been read and how it has been written, it sounds as though it's a shortfall. The officer from the audit office is saying now that they wrote it up because with the savings, the equipment that they tried to purchase was not in the country by the end of the year. But it's how it's written and how it's being reported, I think it's confusing PSC. So I start with the audit office rather than the...
Yeah, but can I just add to the confusion a bit more?
Yes,
the
you can,
ministry's response, Mr. Patterson, I hear what you're saying. 3.8 here, the ministry's response confuses me even more because it says, head of budget agency state in 2018, based on payment plan schedule presented by the Crown Agent of Japan, NDI sought a supplementary provision to cover the expenditure that would have been incurred during the said year. So where does the savings come about? Because they wanted a supplementary. However, the requirement was not met by the supplier, et cetera, et cetera. I agree with you. I think these sections with the Auditor General are confusing to us trying to find out what is it we're looking at. But also too, if you have savings, why are you going to a supplementary provision?
You would have to rebudget it, I would assume, and if it wasn't rebudgeted, you'd have to have a supplementary. I would assume that would be the case, Madam Chair. But the officers can, they can respond. And thank you for agreeing with me with the audit office. Right in.
I was going to suggest that in view of the writing of the Auditor General's office and the answer that was provided by the gentleman representing Para 380, that if we can have the two communicate and clarify, as opposed to us going back and forth on this. If the audit office and the gentleman, with reference to the East Demerara Water Conservancy and your organization can clarify with documentation and verification and submit to the Public Accounts Committee clarity on Para 380. And if there is need for us to further examine this paragraph, then the ministry will be so notified through the accounting officer. So I would like to bring this para to a close as we move on. Well, not a close, but I like to put it to rest for now. And we will return to it if needs be, after the supplemental information is provided from both agencies.
Mr. Chair, not questioning your ruling at all, 100%, but can there be somewhere, I don't know, Madam, she can help me. I don't want it linked to this particular para only, but the question of the clarity in AG's reports. Can we make a notation so when we do come to do the report for 2017, 2018, the whole PAC report, that we can make a comment on that? Of course, the AG is very independent and he can write as he like, but we can make a comment on the clarity for the benefits of everyone on these reports.
Definitely, Honorable Member, but I'd like to for us to have that discussion in camera, please. So I am going to keep it back for any other business or when we are meeting specifically with the Auditor General's office.
Agreed. Mr. Chairman, 391 to do with 2018.
Before you go to 391, Mr. Shearer, so the ministry has the same 1 week, like all other agencies, to provide these additional information as requested.
They are at the same time too.
Yes, so the clarification is for Para 380 and all other information requested. 1 week deadline, and the audit office has the same deadline. We can move on now, honorable members. Yes, Comrade Teixeira, you were going to Para
390 and 391.92. This is to do with a vessel valued at 99,374,000, which was not supplied at the time of reporting in September 2019. What were the issues surrounding the delay, but when was the vessel finally received and verified? When was that? This was, I understand, but it's just a vessel, so I guess it's a boat.
Honorable, accounting officer.
So, in 2018, the vessel was not supplied. As a result, an addendum was entered into on the 28th of May 2019 for the procurement of a new vessel rather than a reconditioned vessel. The new delivery period was the 30th of October, 2019.
So when was the vessel delivered, PS?
The vessel was delivered April of 2020.
And this was a new vessel for the same price as the reconditioned one?
Yes.
So how come that happened? It was the same supplier?
Yes, it was. I asked the head of the chief fisheries officer to respond, but just to say we did receive liquidated damages in the sum of $796,000.
Chief Fisheries Officer.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. Denzel Roberts. The vessel, at the initial stage, on the tender of the contract, after the, I think it was one of the person who was awarded the contract.
I don't want you to think. At PAC, we don't want speculation and we don't want assumptions. We want confirmed information and facts.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, the person who won the bid, after he won it, could not have indicated he could not have supplied the vessel. So we had to ask the tender board for the next best person, and they would have tendered for the new vessel. The delay was because of they had a weather problem. I think they had a cyclone during that time. And when the vessel was finished also, they had problems getting transportation to bring it to Guyana.
Can I go back to asking, the ministry tendered for a reconditioned vessel. The tender produced a bidder who bid for a reconditioned vessel for 90-odd million, then decided he couldn't do it. And then the ministry asked NPTAB to go to the second bidder who had, I assume, bid for a reconditioned vessel and at the same price. So how was the new company producing a new vessel at the same price, or was the price varied? Or was it the first one was overly inflated?
I can't recall if the sum was different, but the second guy, he bid for a new vessel.
And this was a new tender, or just the tender board moving to the second bidder, the second lowest bidder, I assume, or the second bidder?
That's correct.
So how did one change the tender specs from reconditioned to new without, how was that done?
The specs were the same. I mean, if you could get I don't know how the tender board works, but if I assume that the guy, well, not if the next.
You are assuming, my friend.
Sorry, yeah. The next highest bidder was tendering for a new vessel at the price.
So the advertisement was for a new vessel?
No.
What was the advertisement for?
Recondition.
And a reconditioned vessel. And the persons who, or the companies that bid, that put a bid in, how many companies were there? How many organizations or individuals, a total? How many bidders?
Sorry, I can't remember.
Well, Mr. Shearer?
Yes?
I'm not sure if you want the floor still, but I believe that there is clarity also that is needed for this paragraph.
I think so. I don't understand. I think you got my gist. I don't understand how you bid for a reconditioned vessel and you suddenly go to the next bidder and you get a new vessel for the same price. That's why I was wondering if the price was different, but that information hasn't been provided.
If you're finished, I'd like to give the floor to Honorable Edgil.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. At point 391, could the accounting officer tell us what was the engineer's estimate for this vessel?
I remember I don't have that amount with me, but I can certainly provide.
This, before you continue, Honorable Jim, this paragraph is directly related to the Fisheries Department.
It was bought under his program.
So, is the Chief Fisheries Officer alone here for his program?
Yes.
And in your department, do you have engineers and other support staff to spend the money allocated to your department?
Use the ASDU engineers to assist us in
I think
the agriculture support.
Ministry of Agriculture engineers.
Yeah, and help design our projects.
So is the Ministry of Agriculture engineer here? And did that department play a role in this request that your department needed? Because if you cannot answer the questions, then certainly the technical staff in the ministry that assisted the department at the time can provide us with guidance.
Yes, yes.
So Honorable Edgil, sorry for that interruption, but please proceed.
Yes, so we don't know the engineer's estimate.
Well, the engineer is here. The engineer can answer that now.
Can I get the engineer's estimate?
Good afternoon, Raymond Ashman here. So initially in the procurement stage, the force estimate was approximately 100 million. It wasn't fixed because of the type of procurement.
How much is it?
It was approximately 100 million.
100 million?
Yes.
Approximately?
Yes.
But don't you have to give, when you're doing these documents, don't you have to say engineer's estimate and a figure?
So the budgeted amount was 53.
The budgeted amount was 55.5.
Yes.
What Mr. Edgil is asking.
I have the boat.
Sorry.
55 million was to buy half the boat.
The design
this is a 20. Excuse me. This is a 2018 procurement for 13-week delivery. Signed on the 28th of December when the year coming to a close. Everything that could have gone wrong with this went wrong. So don't let us try to hide the cover here. We went into an agreement because we wanted to flush the money out of the system. And we paid them 52 million on the vessel if we don't know the amount.
No, but Mr. Edgil, no. You see, when I make these comments, you think I'm trying to stop you.
But that's what you did anyhow. But
you are making these assumptions.
I am allowed to. The officer could correct me.
Well, fine, but
I have questions.
There's a question that is on the floor.
Yes, I have a question.
And the question has not been answered as yet.
I'm asking what was the engineer's
estimate
for this procurement? Government cannot procure anything in this country except it has been appropriated for. And the way you get it appropriated is by providing to the Ministry of Finance estimates its procurement. What was the estimate for a reconditioned vessel?
So the estimate was $100 million. It was intended to be a multi-year procurement because of the type of specifications that were being used. At the initial stages, the procurement was launched and given 13 weeks for the procurement.
So this was intended to be a multi-year project?
Yes.
How many years?
That's about 2 years.
But sir, if this was to be a multi-year project, the delivery can be 13 weeks. As I don't know what you're telling me. It is a multi-year project. Delivery can be 13 weeks. It's 2018 we're talking about. 2018's budget was passed in November of 2017. So monies to procure was available since January of 2018. I would like to see evidence that this was a multi-year project. That a letter was written to the Ministry of Finance and the date for it to be a multi-year project. It became multi-year in December because it was awarded in the 20th of December, it couldn't be delivered on time. That's when it became multi-year. We must come to PSC talking to people who understand the system, sir.
So all of these things happened on the 28th of December, all four things here?
Okay, yes, sir. On 28th of December 2018.
The contract that was awarded on the 28th of December for 99.37 million was for a new vessel or a reconditioned vessel?
New vessel, sir.
A new vessel. You went out for a reconditioned vessel. Your advertising was for a reconditioned vessel.
Yes.
You received bids for recondition and new.
Yes, sir.
The bidders for the reconditioned vessel, why were they not qualified?
Well, the first one was awarded for the recondition, but he couldn't pay. He indicated he cannot fulfill that contract, so it went to the next highest bidder, which was.
When was that offer made, and when was that communicated? Or let's back up. When was it advertised?
I don't have that date here.
Well, I would like to get that information. When was it evaluated and awarded?
Yes, I'll have to provide those information.
So because this December transaction, you're saying is a fallback position. That's what you're saying?
Yes.
And the reason why it went to 99 million, because you're moving from a reconditioned vessel to a new vessel.
Well, that was the bid of the next.
No, but if you advertise for a reconditioned vessel, and then you say, I'm having difficulty understanding how is it that you have advertised for reconditioned vessel, and in the submission of people, they submitted the submission of companies, they submitted for a new vessel. Isn't it that two different projects altogether, and the bid documents would not have specified that what you are looking for is a reconditioned vessel? So how do you know that the next bidder is for a new vessel?
Correct.
The second bidder would have indicated it's a new vessel.
The second bidder what?
Would have indicated that it's a new vessel.
So you know this by what? By being on the tender board? Because this was awarded by what? MPTAB, right?
Yes.
So these people submitted their bid documents to the ministry in a sealed envelope, and then it goes to MPTAB, where it will be opened. If I'm going wrong, somebody can correct me. Where it is opened, and then it is sent for evaluation, and from evaluation, it comes back to the tender board for award. So in the evaluation, one would have recognized that you basically bid for something we're not asking for. So if you're bidding for something we didn't ask for, how do you qualify to go back to the tender board as the second best bidder or most responsive? Am I making sense? So how many bidders were there for this project?
Yes, you are, Mr. Mayapal.
Thank you, Mr. Shearer.
At least I'm understanding you.
How many bidders were there for this project?
As I had indicated earlier, I don't have the exact figure.
So I think Mr. Comrade Edgil will add to these requests that I am going to make now. We need to know the amount of people, the number of bidders, and their specific price that they bid at, and what they bid for. Did they bid for reconditioned vessel or new vessels? And we need to see the number in terms of how they qualified, most responsive to least responsive. And if there were bidders that were not that did not fit the criteria when the evaluation process took effect. And I don't know if Comrade Edgil has any other request to add.
Mr. Chairman, in the ministry's response, tells us that we need an explanation. There was an addendum which was entered into the 28th of May 2019. And that is why I asked, backing up, when was this advertised, when was it evaluated, and when was it awarded? Because somewhere in that process, an addendum came in and says, we want a new vessel. So if the addendum came in and said, we want a new vessel to disqualify all the reconditioned people so that the man with the new could get a job, I have a problem. And I want to find out that my curiosity is leading me down the wrong road. Because if we are buying a vessel and a man puts in a bid for a new vessel and his price is 100 million, but I got $55 million for a reconditioned vessel, and then I go back to the tender board and say, here, I want to have an addendum for a new vessel. And I disqualify all the reconditioned people. The proper process would have been to annul this and to go back out for a new vessel so we could know what's the real price of the new vessel.
So what we will also want is the advertisement that was out for this vessel, this reconditioned vessel that was initially what we were looking for. And if there was an advertisement for the change that requires a second vessel, requires a change to a new vessel. And if there were two separate processes that were used that arrived us at one, this reconditioned vessel that the person was awarded, and if there was another one that probably gave it to the new person, because I don't want to go down the road of speculating. I prefer that all the information relating to this paragraph be supplied to the Public Accounts Committee 1 week's time, and if there is further clarity that is required, then the ministry will so be informed.
Mr. Chair,
Can I just ask one further clarification? At 391, it says this was the acquisition of a boat and fish feeding machine. Is the boat and the fish feeding machine one unit or two different things? And was the fish feeding machine ever provided, and when?
Yes, there are two separate items. The fish feeding machine was acquired in the same year.
So what? So disaggregate the 55.500 million for us.
There was an advance payment of 52.9.
No, when I say disaggregate, the boat has one and the fish feeding machine will have another number.
Okay.
So how much is for the boat and how much for the fish feeding machine?
I have to get back to you regarding the fish feeding machine.
The engineer could help us?
No, not at this point.
Well, you know, I do believe.
Was that, Mr. Chairman, was that the bidder who got the boat? Did he also get the fish feeding machine? Because the way it's written in 391, it looks like one contractor being paid as follows, as it's stated in the Auditor General's report. And if it was the same contractor, when the contractor couldn't produce the reconditioned vessel, he was paid already an advance sum, it seems. So was that money returned?
No monies were paid to the first bidder who indicated that he couldn't.
But sir, you said to me that the A, B, C, and D all happened on the 28th of December 2018.
What's for
The Auditor General said, yeah.
For the new vessel.
For the new vessel?
Mr. Chair, can I? When you, Mr. Chair, myself, just like the other members of PSC, will seek further clarity. From what I'm hearing, if the member, from what I'm hearing from the Fisheries Department, is they went out for ads for a reconditioned vessel, and the very first bidder was unable to fulfill. They did not sign a contract with him for whatever reasons. I'm not going to go there. Like Ms. Edgell and everyone else, we're probably querying how they moved from a recondition to a new vessel and the new sum and those things like that. But from what I'm gathering here, and obviously, you will be giving, PSC will be giving them time to come back. What I'm gathering here is the contract that we are now talking about is with the second bidder who got there, however they got there, which you have to explain. So the payments made was to the second bidder only as opposed to the first bidder. I just wanted that clarified, but the outstanding questions that were raised before, I think PSC needs.
No, but Patterson, I'm asking a question about the fish feeding machine.
Oh, my apologies, my apologies.
Yeah, no, I understand that. But in 391, it talks about the money being awarded of 55 million for the boat and fish feeding machine as of December 2018. And the contract was an advance amount was paid of 52.9 million. So then we come on later to the other aspect that you have summarized. Non-delivery of the vessel, addendum, and delivery in April 2020. But I'm asking now about, was the contractor, the first contractor or the second, required to provide a boat and fish feeding? Or are they two separate things, two separate tenders? And because the way the Auditor General, it looks as if it's one contract. And if the man who contracted couldn't provide the vessel, did he provide the fish feeding machine, which appears to have been this one contract?
Comrade Teixeira and
Yes.
Comrade Wilson, I don't think that the Chief Fisheries Officer, based on my judgment here, has all the facts pertaining to this issue.
Yeah.
As he indicated to us, all four of these points, which is the contract awarded in the sum of 99.374 million, letter of acceptance signed, contract entered into, and advance payment of 52.900 million was processed. He said to us just now that all four of these things happened on December 28, 2018, which is an agreement and acceptance of what the Auditor General told us to. Then he was asked, this advance payment, if it was made to the person or the company that was awarded, and he said that no advance payment was made. But that is in the four that we have here. Then we go down further in the paragraph and we see that an addendum was entered into on the 28th of May 2019 for the procurement of a new vessel and no longer reconditioned vessel. So my interpretation of that is that on the 28th of May 2019 and going forward is when the system went into a direction to procure a different vessel. And perhaps that is when they started to go for this new vessel, because that's when the addendum was entered into. So I am saying, Comrade Teixeira and Comrade Patterson, that clearly there is need for extreme clarity on this paragraph, and instead of us fishing for information that seems to not come, and the Chief Fisheries Officer, in my view, is not equipped with the information to provide the answers, nor the engineers at the ministry, I will suggest that we give them the 1 week period to bring detailed clarity on this contentious issue so that we can understand it greater.
Mr. Chairman, therefore, are we asking them to return to us?
We're asking them to submit the information in 1 week's time, and as we visit the information, should we see the need for them to return to ask further questions, then they will be put on notice.
Remember, they have a series of other questions too to do with the foreign funded ones as well.
Yes, so the deadline for them to submit those answers is the 1 week period. And upon receipt of the answers, we will determine if there is need for them to appear again before the Public Accounts Committee.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Honorable Member.
Before we leave this paragraph, I think there are some simple things that I don't expect to hear we don't know. Could the accounting officer tell us on the 28th of December 2018 the name of the contractor we entered into the contract with?
The contracting form.
Contracting form.
I agree that those are basic information the information that can be provided to the PAC now. The Chief Fisheries Officer, do you know the name of the contracting form?
The first one that was annulled was Car Clean, and the second one that got a new contract is S. Jagmohan.
Can you repeat that, please? The first one, the one that was awarded at first, what was it?
Car Clean.
Car
Clean.
Awarded or annulled?
Well, afterwards, when he indicated he wouldn't be able to.
So it was awarded, and he indicated he cannot satisfy this, and it was annulled.
Mr. Chair, if I would be allowed to finish my questioning.
You're
Who's
always
the second one? Can we hear just the second one? I didn't hear that properly. Hold on, Bishop. What's the name of the second company?
S. Jagmohan.
So S. Jagmohan.
Yep.
All right. So on the 28th of December 2018, the contract was awarded to Car Clean. The letter of acceptance signed, contract entered into, and 52.9 million paid to Car Clean. According to this, if that's what you're telling me.
No, sir. No payment was made to Car Clean.
So who did we sign the contract with on the 28th of December 2018? And paid the 52 million to?
It's Jagmohan who signed this.
So
hold on, you think?
In December?
No, we need to get, listen, hold on.
I would have to.
Honorable members, if you are not certain of an answer, Chief Fisheries Officer, all you have to say is that I would like to request some time to provide you with this answer. That's all you have to say, but I don't want you to go down the road of thinking and speculating and providing us with wrong information. So if you are not certain,
Sure.
please request of us to provide you with some time, and we will do such.
Okay, well, could you please give me some time to get the
Mr.
answers?
Chairman, can I ask the Auditor General's office?
We don't know who we paid 52 million to as of December 28th.
No, I don't think that's fair, Comrade Edghill. It's not that we don't know.
I'm asking who we paid the money to on December 28th.
And the gentleman is saying that he needs some time to
find
provide
out
the
who
answer.
No. We could get that answer right now. The Auditor General is supposed to tell us that.
Well, the Auditor AG's office, if you can go right.
I need to know who.
Mr. Chair, according to our records when we did the audit at the time, my engineer's report I'm reading from, the contract was signed with S-Jaguar Hardware Supplies and Construction Services on the 20th of December.
Wow. Wow.
So the contract was awarded.
Mr. Chair, if I may add also, we did request the details regarding the tendering and award of the contract, but we never got the evaluation report. So we didn't get to examine the procurement procedures.
Mr. Chairman, after listening to this, I am making it very clear. I am not satisfied that the Ministry of Agriculture has to come before us on this. I'm not, if we give them 2 weeks instead to come before us, because we have spent the last half an hour talking about a first bidder and a second bidder, and it turns out the second bidder is the one who got the contract originally, according to the Auditor General. So I am not satisfied in any paper transaction. I would like the Ministry of Agriculture to come before us within 2 weeks with full disclosure on these matters.
Well, I am going to say that they are to provide us with written answers to the many questions that were asked in 1 week's time, and then they will appear before us 2 weeks from now to answer questions that we will still have. So I'm not ruling out your request, Comrade Teixeira, but I prefer that they do the 1 week submission and still come 1 week after that submission to answer further questions on this paragraph. And,
Mr. Chair?
And other paragraphs as we see fit.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, I have absolutely, in one of the occasions where I agree with everyone there, but I just want to caution us, the committee, on something that transpired earlier with Home Affairs or with from the Finance Secretary, saying that we should give people 2 weeks and those things like that before they appear at PAC. So if we're conforming agriculture in 2 weeks' time, I would just ask that the committee inform whoever will be replaced early enough so that they can so they don't come before us and say they don't have enough time to did not have enough time to prepare. Just a technicality there, sir.
Definitely, Comrade Patterson, but just so that people can be on the same page, the Finance Secretary was speaking with reference to the audit, to the Accountant General, the Finance Secretary and Auditor General Office, providing guidance to the ministry so that when they appear, they will be able to answer the necessary questions. Now, that is something that the Ministry of Finance the Ministry of Agriculture, enjoyed already. They had the privilege of meeting with the Accountant General, Finance Secretary, and Auditor General Office in terms of their preparation. They now have an advantage, which is to enjoy 2 more weeks to come back to this Public Accounts Committee to answer further questions on this paragraph and other paragraphs as we see fit. And that is in addition to the supply of information in 1 week's time via writing, based on our requests.
While I have no objection with what you're saying, I'd like to make it clear what are the concerns that I have for response in writing for us to examine. and I'd like to state them now.
Can you please repeat, please? I was speaking to the clerk.
Yes, I'd like to state what are the answers I'm looking for in the writing in the 1 week, or we'll examine it later. Number one, the engineer's estimate for this project. Number two, when it was advertised, how many bidders, when it was awarded. Number three, documentation to show that the lowest responsive bidder indicated that they cannot engage in this contract and they forfeited their right to sign a contract. Number four, permission that was granted to enter into a contract for 99 million when only 55 million was appropriated. Number four, a copy of the contract that was entered into on the 28th of December for 99 million for delivery in 13 weeks. Number five, the addendum that was entered into on the 28th of May for the procurement of a new vessel. Because I'm supposing that as of December 28th, 2018, when this contract was entered into and there was no addendum, the monies that were being paid was for reconditioned boat, because there was no addendum for new boat at that time. Number five, or number six? Huh? Number seven, the delivery note, when this boat was delivered and accepted. Number eight, the question that Madam Teixeira asked, was the boat and the fish feeding machinery one item in the contract? And number nine, confirmation that the boat that was delivered satisfied the specification of the ad that went out.
And I want to add two requests to that request made by Honorable Edgil. I would like to add a copy of the advertisement and also the document showing that it was a multi-year project, because we were told that it's a multi-year project. No, this is just, we have some more paragraphs here that we should have. It's the paragraphs that we will leave open, and this is one such paragraph. So when the ministry come back, it's not to go down to all those remaining paragraphs, but and other paragraphs we fit. So if we go to paragraph 394, for example, and they answer our questions on that, then there will be no need for them to answer that in 2 weeks. I must say to the accounting officer that in your submission, please ensure that you submit 25 hard copies to the office of the clerk, and also send your information via soft copy, because the parliament will need to circulate your answers to all members of PAC and also provide them with hard copies. Okay? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I want to add a few questions to the list that was asked earlier. First, Mr. Chairman, just to guide the accounting officer, I would like to know what was the contracted sum for the used vessel by Car Clean And if there was a performance bond attached to this particular contract, if there was, what happened to that performance bond? And if renewed efforts can be made to provide the evaluation report, because this request was made by the Auditor General, but at the time, I don't think the agency was able to provide the evaluation report to the team from the Auditor General's office.
So can we therefore, now that the ministry is aware as to the information we are requesting, and now that it's confirmed that they will submit these answers in writing and subsequently appear back before the Public Accounts Committee in 2 weeks' time, can we now move to the other paragraphs that are?
Paragraph 381, 382, 383, 384, 85, 86, 87.
Starting from 380 what?
381, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87. My one question is, what was happening in the ministry that led to the non-implementation and underperformance of all of these projects? For example, at 387, nothing was spent.
I know that Mr. Jarvis indicated that okay, in my 5 minutes absence, I'm guided by Ms. Finance, who was chairing that Ms. Teixeira was drilling the agency on these very paragraphs, and they are also required to provide information to this PAC as it relates to these paragraphs also. So that this will also add to what we have agreed on, that is that they will provide these information in a week's time and appear before us 1 week after that for further scrutiny.
So that prevents the answer to the question, what led to the lack of implementation?
No, it does not. It does not.
If I can, because we were going back and forth with that, that specific question was asked, and we were going back and forth with it, and we asked for clarity because there wasn't clarity on that. So Mr. Chair did ask those questions, and the ministry have to come back with those responses because
So
those
rather
were
than
the
for us to
questions.
have a repeat,
Yes.
let us give the ministry the opportunity to respond to us via writing if there were questions on this via writing, and in the next week after the questioning on that specific area is going to continue. But I take note that the accounting officer wishes to address us.
Thanks, Chair. Honorable member referred to 387 and said nothing was spent. I just want to say that program 2.
Sorry, ma'am, 383, the entire amount remain unspent.
383?
383, 384.
Oh, reverse linkage. So I have the officer here, and I'm happy you raised this one because it's GRDB. Nothing was spent, actually. I'll ask him to say why.
But is this a back and forth where you answered this already, or this is a fresh question?
This is
fresh.
And
Okay.
I would like him to answer because
Okay.
it's closed.
No problem. No, I didn't want us to go on on a circle, but fine, go ahead.
Dr. Andrew, GRDB. The 40 million that was allocated by the government of Guyana was a counterpart funding to the reverse linkage program with Malaysia. The contract was awarded in 2018 by ISDB to a company called Max Agri Commerce in Malaysia. And they came here in Guyana in around, and once they would have signed the contract in September 2018, the project life would have been 2 years. The consultancy group came here in March, almost the ending of March 2019, to set up and to reach with everyone to have a startup of the project. The key things that they were to deliver were varieties of rice, training in seed production, and value-added training also, and both overseas and locally. The Max group of consultancy had promised to provide the first set of rice varieties for the second crop 2019 sowing, which would have been somewhere in June. We have not received any material until somewhere in 16th or 14th of December 2019, when we received only two lines for sowing, as opposed to 8 under that pillar. By the time of the November 2019 also, training were to be effected. If I backtrack a little, when the group came in March, one consultant stopped over for 3 weeks to see the implementation of the program. They could have not provided us with anything on the ground as yet, and he left. So in 2019, December, we received those 2 breeding lines or varieties, and we incorporated in our trials. At that time, there was no counterpart from Max Agri Commerce. Then came COVID in 2020, and they have continuously been advising us that they fall short of everything is because of COVID. And basically nothing happened on their side, and there was no need to spend this money as nothing was happening, and they were not providing the kind of training, resources, material for us to test. So this money, as far as I know, none of this money was spent, and rightly so. So I don't know if I really answered the honorable member question rightfully, but I'm willing to answer anything was beyond on the topic. I think it was, the inability to, I saw it from a technical standpoint. The COVID came, but Max was also in a dilemma to provide the technical material for us, because in my humble opinion, I don't think they actually have the material to have supplied to us for this type of work. The initial set of persons who came for the assessment of this project, and mind you, it is a project that well conceived in my view, but the execution from those persons who have gotten the contract, in my view, they fell short. It was Malaysian Agriculture Research Development Institute who came to Guyana and did an initial assessment with the Ministry of Agriculture and GRD, and then we came up with the pillars to improve our productivity, and these are the useful things for us in Guyana was salt tolerant and aromatic rice and increasing yields on these things. However, I saw ISDB have awarded the Max consultancy, the award, and there come COVID, and everything went down the road there. But from our side, there is nothing more that we could have done other than keep testing the two material, and those are basically one of them in terms of the breeding program. They are still in the breeding program. That's so much for me at this point in time. I could accommodate any question.
So, Mr. Chair, the explanation is noted, and thank the officer for it. But the bottom line is, what was appropriated for the benefit of the farmers, that benefit they never received because this project was never executed.
But the gentleman just said that the spending not happening, and in his view, rightly so, because of all the things that he outlined. So it wasn't, it is not a blame game to say.
No, I'm not saying it's a blame game.
There's sufficient reasons based on the explanation provided, and given that you don't have a follow-up as to why it was not spent. You said, sir, that this budget was made or was passed in November of the year before. And a lot of factors happened that led to this money not being expended. And the gentleman, in his response, his particular words that I took note of,
Mr.
is
Chairman,
rightly so.
Mr. Chairman, when monies are appropriated for the benefit of citizens and a particular project cannot be executed, or there is information that it could be better spent, the benefit goes to the people by writing for a change of program. That's how it goes.
Your comment is
Mr. Chair? Mr. Chair?
Go ahead, Honorable Patterson.
If I may have misunderstood or something like that, but I was paying keen attention to the response by the officer.
I was also.
This, sir, is not locally funded. It is funded by ISDB or ISDA or whoever it is, IS thing. And it was done, and the fault in it is, and they awarded the contract. If the officer, if I could hear the officer's response and those things like that, they awarded the contract, but the persons that they awarded to could not fulfill the contract. They change a program and those things like that. If you want to change a program for international funding agency, you have to go back to the board. You have to do a new project document. We know this all too well with several local international programs. So I just wanted to highlight that when if something international program is budgeted, it goes through a process of assessment. The officer set out that rightly so, no payments is made because, in his opinion, the companies that were awarded can't do it. But in the opinion of the ISDB or ISDA, they can. So make a comment that a change of program should be done is a comment which you have to say direct to the international funding agency. As opposed to, if it's local funds, we can quite easily do that locally. I just wanted that to be, just wanted that clarification on record.
Thank you very much, Honorable Patterson, and I am aware of that also. But what I want to ask is that this amount of money, $40 million, for this specific project, reverse linkage project in rice development production, this is a project that we requested, we as a country requested, and that is how this international agency accepted to facilitate at this cost. Can you answer that, please?
Sorry, to my knowledge, it was not something, well, we have requested, as far as I know, the assistance from ISDB. And we have both sat down with the researchers from Malaysia and Guyana, and we have worked out this program.
Good.
Our understanding is that ISDB is going to provide the funds, and at some point in time, we have seen that Guyana has to put some counterpart funding. So
Guyana's part was 40 million.
Yes, Guyana. Well, initially it would have been 40. I think it would have been a little more than 40 for the second year, another 40.
Okay. So, are you aware? So this 40 million is coming from the Ministry of Agriculture allocation.
I mean,
PS can answer that.
I really need a volume one because I don't think it's GOG. We were given in kind, but I stand to be corrected with volume one of this.
In what?
Volume one, to know for sure. But this was a grant. This was a grant. So the counterpart would have been in kind.
Okay. So, well, you do know that as Ms. Finance indicated, there is information that is needed on these paragraphs. So all of that can be incorporated. But the point I was trying to get at is whether the ministry, if the PS is aware, I was going down the road of asking if you're aware of there being a request for change of program and, to spend the money elsewhere in keeping to the line that Comrade Edgel was going at. But there is no further need for that. The paragraphs are still open. So if there are no other questions for the Ministry of Agriculture, there are a number of paragraphs open, and the Ministry of Agriculture has to satisfy a request of 1 week to supply this committee with written responses to a number of questions, and the Ministry of Agriculture is to appear before the PAC 2 weeks from now, 2 Mondays from now, which is, somebody help me with the date. 22nd on 21st on the 21st of March 2022. PS, Ms. Delmaned, and all your supporting staff, thank you very much for appearing before the Public Accounts Committee. And we look forward to your response 1 week from now in writing and your presence again on the 21st of March 2022. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
We now have before us the Ministry of Business at the time, and we are examining the public accounts for the years 2017 and 2018. I believe this ministry is now the Ministry of Industries, Tourism Industries and Commerce. And I would like to invite Ms. Sharon Rupchan Edwards, the Accounting Officer and Permanent Secretary, to introduce her team.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members. I'll start to my left. I have with me our Director of Entrepreneurship, Business and Entrepreneurship, Mr. Edgehill, John Edgehill. I have on my PASF, Ms. Ayana Stephen. We have former PS of the ministry, Ms. Raj, PS Raj. And behind I have GTA's head, Mr. Cameroon Baksh. I also have the head of industry, Ms. Sharon Alexander.
Mr. Baksh is to my far.
Right here. I'll ask them to raise their hands, please. Yes. I have the head of industry, Ms. Sharon Alexander. The CEO acting of Small Business Bureau, Ms. Vanessa Thompson. The head of the NQI project under the IDB funded project, Dr. Prasad. And the finance person, the head of finance for both our ESW and NQI project, IDB projects, Mr. Bahadur.
Thank you very much, Ms. Rupchan Edwards. We have 25 paragraphs from the 2017 report and 33 paragraphs from the 2018 report. Honorable members, I put all the paragraphs before you. The floor is open.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Honorable Member Siraj.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Honorable Member Siraj.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know the agency has made some moves in the right direction in terms of contracted employees, and we deal with 328, 330, 2017. It will be 399, 401, 425, 2018. And it all relates to contracted employees. And I said that we noticed some reduction. And if we can get an up-to-date position from the accounting officer.
Ms. Sharon Rupchan Edwards.
Thank you, Honorable Member. As of December 2018, we have 19 contracted employees. Of the 19, 13 are above the age 45, and the remaining 6 are not or do not meet the match the qualifications on the permanent structure.
And what's the status of the current 6?
So the status of the current 6, 1, there's a non-renewal. 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 resignations, and 2 we still have on contract.
4, 5, 6, that's 7. 1 non-renewal.
Well, non-renewal, 3 resignations. Personal system development officers resigned, the assistant admin resigned, and the senior commerce officer resigned. All of these are those with the qualification issues. We have 2 that are still on.
Honorable Member Siraj.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm looking at for 2017, paragraph 335 and 336. I think it's also linked to paragraphs 407 and 408 in 2018. But for 2017, Mr. Chairman, can the accounting officer inform PAC what would have accounted for this huge shortfall in spending? More than half the amount allocated in 2017 was not utilized by the ministry.
We're going to spend a few days together.
I don't think so.
Accounting officer.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Honorable Member. Actually, within the write-up in that submission, it's about three paragraphs. There's an explanation for both 335, 336, and 407, 408 that was submitted to within that report for the shortfall.
Do you have a copy of that, Honorable Member Siraj?
Mr. Chairman, I don't know if the officer is referring to the Auditor General report or a submission from the Ministry of Business.
The Ministry of Business was written to for them to make submissions to Public Accounts Committee with reference to these paragraphs. And their submission, I have a copy here. This is the document. I don't know if you have it here. The headline is 2017 audit responses for the Ministry of Business.
But I'm not seeing anything on 335. I know there's, neither is there anything on.
I'm not seeing anything on 335 either.
Giving an explanation as what the PS is explaining to us.
So,
can you,
and hence my question whether the PS was referring us to a submission by the Ministry of Business or is it the Auditor General report?
Those submissions you're talking about, PS, did they go to the Auditor General or to the Parliament?
No, the submission. So, all right,
no, but
335 to 336.
Hold on, PS, you said you made submissions.
Yes, I did.
And who did you send them to?
To the Parliament office.
But that doesn't, yes, so that's this response here. The 2017 audit.
No, sorry, what I'm trying to explain is within the report itself, the Auditor General report, within the submissions in those paragraphs, it explains the shortfall, but I can read it back.
Oh, as the ministry's response.
Correct, it's there.
Well, for the benefit of the member, go right ahead and read it.
All right, so 335 and 336, the sum of 70 million was allocated for the provision of design and upgrading of facilities. However, the ministry sought and obtained approval for a change of program for the rehabilitation of the head office. The shortfall was a result of approval for change of program being granted in June 2017 and the National Tender Board approval coming in October 2017, and then the signing of the contract in November 2017. However, it is noted that the sum of 84 million was approved in the 2018 budget. So what happened is because of the late timelines and the approvals, only the mobilization amount was issued or was released in 2017, and therefore we had a shortfall in expenditure, which went roll over to 2018.
Mr. Chairman, and my question is because what would have caused these shortfall? Because as was noted earlier, this budget would have been approved quite early. I think for 2018 was in November of 2017. I can't recall exactly when the 2017 budget was approved, but and that's why I was asking whether the clarification lies in the submission from the Ministry of Business or from the Auditor General. The Auditor General just noting what happened. My question is that why is it that the Ministry of Business waited until November to get these things going? Because projects of this nature, you start as early as possible so as to execute and to avoid unspent amounts. So that's why I was asking the question along those lines.
I heard the PS saying that the shortfall was with reference to a change of program also for one of the paragraphs. So if there's a change of program, it means that there is either, to account for the shortfall, a reduction in the sum that was really allocated for that particular purpose. And because of the change, the possibility is that there was a reduction in the sum, hence the budgeted sum. There was the excess, if I may use that word. Am I correct, PS?
Honorable Chair and fellow members, I cannot say with certainty that that was it. I believe that part of it may be the slot in the process of the whole procurement process, but if it's fine with the members, I can ask Forum PS if you'd like to comment on the reasons they may have had that slot. But from what I'm seeing, it's a matter of the timelines for the procurement process.
But you said something just now. You read, which part you read from there just now?
335, 336.
Mm-hmm. And you indicated that there was a change of program.
Correct.
Right? And the sum that was there originally for that program was how much? I'm speaking specifically to the change of program that you referenced.
70 million.
That was the original.
Correct.
And when the change of program was done, what was the figure?
The change of program approval was given to utilize 61.04 million.
So that's a difference of close to 9 million. Is that a part of this number they're calling a shortfall?
No. The remainder, if there's a breakdown of the showing that the difference was spent for the design and construction of for the design and supervision of NEC and for withholding tax. So that is not part of the short. So the shortfall is within the amount of 61.04.
Okay. Former PS?
Thank you, Chair. Just to just for clarification, the sum of $70 million were allocated for the National Exhibition Center. At that time, there was reconsideration, and it was deemed more practicable to look at the Ministry of Business head office or office in terms of the rehabilitation of that building. On that basis, a request must be made to the Ministry of Finance for the change of program, as we just heard. And 61.04 million was allocated for the rehabilitation of the building, Ministry's head office. And the balance was to go to the design of the National Exhibition Center. Out of the amount allocated for the ministry's building, 61.04 million, only 20.4 million was expended after the contract was signed, and that 49.9 million is the result in the shortfall in the expenditure for that activity.
So the 20.4 million completed the work?
The work was not completed, and it was rolled over for the next year.
When did the work begin?
The design would have started in the said year, 2017.
Oh, and then it rolled over into 2018?
Yes, yeah.
So the 49.9 million was returned to the Consol Fund?
For the rollover.
Mr. Chair, I have a small inquiry. I have to leave shortly, but that's a matter of concern.
You will be missed.
331 at 2017, 426, 2018.
331 and 426.
of 2018. Basically checks written up but on hand, which are basically breaches of the FMAA.
Could we get a sense of what happened here? Why were the checks not uplifted?
Thank you, Honorable Member. The checks were not uplifted, and I think it is an issue that we are trying to put the mechanisms in place. But the vendors the vendors are supposed to uplift those checks from the Ministry of Finance on completion. We are given a list at the end, every week or every 2 weeks from the Ministry of Finance, and our staff would follow up with them to uplift checks. We have up to so much control to have them uplift the checks. So I can assume that the same reasons maybe for that year, 2017.
No, PS. We're not going to do assumptions.
So I will ask, sorry, Chair, I will ask the PS then, because I've noted that all checks have since been paid to the respective payee for the period. But in our experience, and because we have to do more aggressive follow-up with Ministry of Finance supporting us in giving us those lists, you're right, I will ask the PS to comment on whether that is the reason or there are other reasons.
Yeah, but before the former PS, let me just, and I should have done this from the start, if you are not certain, and I did it with the other accounting officers also, if you are not certain about an answer and you require some time to provide us with the answer, you can request the time to provide the answer and it will so be granted.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
You're guided. Former PS.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, the number of checks outstanding at the 31st of December was partly due to those checks that were processed in November and December for services supplied to the ministry. The Ministry of Business do not uplift the check from the Ministry of Finance. The supplier normally goes directly to the Ministry of Finance and uplift the checks. We would inform them once we know the check is ready at the Ministry of Finance, and the onus at that point in time is on the supplier to go and uplift the check. We do not do that on their behalf. So after we were told there are a number of checks, we have to keep calling them and reminding them on a constant basis to ensure that they go and uplift the checks.
If people are not interested in collecting money and being paid?
They were rich at the time.
A follow-up.
Go ahead, Honorable Member.
If that is what happened then, could I be advised, what systems have we put in place to improve operational efficiency?
Thank you, Honorable Member. Well, the first thing we have a relationship with Ministry of Finance, so where they supply us with a list at least once a week or once every fortnight. There are staff that spend the time to call these vendors up and to monitor it after a period of time. So the next list that comes in, they check to see who still have not cleared. So it's basically continuous monitoring and trying to follow up. What I have asked the staff to do is, if we are going to contract someone, if they've won something and we're going to use them, is to make it clear from the beginning at the signing of the agreement that, one, you are responsible for uplifting your check at the Ministry of Finance, and two, we're asking that they do it in a timely manner. And if they cannot, if they feel that they're not interested in going to finance to pick up the check, or there's going to be a delay, and they admit that, then we will
consider that maybe you're not interested in the contract. It's just one way of saying to them, this is your responsibility. It reflects on the ministry. You have your money. It also reflects on Ministry of Finance, not only Ministry of Tourism, Ministry of Commerce at the end of the year. So that's what we can do at this point.
But a follow-up, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Honorable.
The Accountant General is probably still on the call. I hope so.
Yes, she is.
Is there a system at the Ministry of Finance when we have these checks for a period that we notify the agency or the supplier about picking up these checks? I mean, any government would normally have the one complaint. People are not being paid. But here's a case where you're telling me the checks were ready for payment, but just that people didn't pick them up.
Accountant General.
To the Chair, thank you, Mr. Chair. With response to the question from Member Edgell, I'd like to advise PAC that based on what was alluded by PS, there's a mechanism where we email the list of checks available to each accounting officer. The Ministry of Finance also make calls to the suppliers and vendors to uplift checks, and it's the same experience, the same issues we are experiencing as well, where you call them and they're taking a very long time to come, and thereafter we have to refund the checks to the consult fund.
Thank you very much, AG.
Most welcome.
Just for systems management issue here, AG, are we having other agencies that fall in this same predicament?
Yes, Member Edgell, we deal with our non-sub-accounting agencies are about 17 agencies, and we experience the same challenge.
Well, could I ask that some circular or something be done? Because every time people are not paid, a supplier is not paid, somebody is not paid, money is not circulating, and people are affected negatively when the check is already cut. The IFMAS is showing that the money is spent, gone, but in reality, the money is not out there in circulation.
But that's because they are not collecting their money.
They're not uplifting. We are sending the reports to all the accounting officers that fall under the Accountant General's department.
Some suppliers and contractors, if I do business with the Ministry of Business, somewhere in my head, is the Ministry of Business paying me? And the place I can collect that is at the Ministry of Business. The permanent secretary is now saying they're notifying people up front. When you enter into a contract with us, your check will be at the Ministry of Finance. You have to go to the Ministry of Finance, Accountant General office to get your check and your payment because they're not self-accounting units. But the thing is, how do we get this fixed? That somebody calling, your money ready? Check finance. You go to finance, I got check on it. So we got to get that fixed. Because I'm thinking with all those suppliers and small people who feel the squeeze in these matters, so we got to try and fix that.
Yes, Member Edgell, I agree with you, and we work towards to continue to make contact with suppliers and put other systems in place to ensure that payments are done on a timely basis.
AG, you know, I know the system, and I'm putting the pressure on you. I won't come back to the PS. Maybe the PS.
I understand.
Maybe the PS needs to get one of our officers. Once those checks are cut, and the notification from finances that they're ready, that we call these people and check back on them.
Yes, Honorable Member, we are doing that. We do that every month, twice a month. Once we receive that list from Ministry of Finance, our staff make calls. When the updated list comes, we go through and we do a call again. And so I can say with full certainty that the staff is following up in that regard.
But just to add one other measure as we're on this is that we have been trying to ensure as much of our procurement is completed before November, December, so we don't have those also backlog of checks into the new year.
Thank you, Accounting Officer. Honorable Member Siraj, you have the floor.
Thank you, Committee Chairman. 341-2017. Mr. Chairman, I suspect this has to do, well, it's stated here, Latam Industrial Estate Infrastructural Works, but it also says it's 341-2017. But it also says a Belvedere Business Incubator. Are these two separate projects or one project? And why was the tender process annulled in the first instance?
Accounting Officer.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Honorable Member. I will ask Ms. Raj to respond to this one, specifically to the annulment.
Thank you. Yes, and through the chair, the Latam and Belvedere projects are separate projects. Latam Industrial Estate is one that was designed in two parts, lots 1 and 2. The shortfall that is referred here is the delays in terms of making the payment on a timely basis because the work that was completed was determined to be substandard, and it's referred to as paragraph B. There were failed test results, and as such, we did not approve any payments because of the incomplete, to some extent, of the work due to the not meeting the specification. And this was established by the supervising consultant.
Mr. Chairman, I thank the team for the response, but my line of questioning wasn't going towards that. I saw that. But at the beginning, a process was annulled. And I know that delays were encountered because of the failed test results and all of that. But there was also here stated that they had to, I think, retender in May because the first process was annulled. So my question is, why was the tender process annulled in the first instance, which led to the delay in executing this project? And I very, very well appreciate the fact that there was some amount of quality supervision, which of course detect that you had failed, the concrete that was being poured failed, the compaction test and all of that. But again, yeah, but the first process was annulled. What would have caused that to happen?
Thank you, Honorable Member. The contractors, none of the contractors had met the criteria as set up.
So the project was re-advertised and then an award was made in May. I'm reading you correctly?
Yes.
Yes, Honorable Member.
Mr. Chairman, I have no further questions.
Honorable members, there being no other question with reference to the Ministry of Business, now the Ministry of Industry, Tourism, Industry and Commerce, let me thank the accounting officer and permanent secretary, who I know had a long wait, and I'm absolutely certain that the wait was not in vain, for her presence at today's Public Accounts Committee meeting. And let me thank her and her staff for providing us with the answers, reference the paragraphs, and let me also wish you well as you continue to account for the monies under your watch. Thank you very much, PS.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, honorable members. Thank you for the opportunity to respond to your queries. Thank you all the stakeholders and involved, and of course to my team who will work diligently with me. Thank you all. Stay safe.